service sales coach, Joe Crisara.
Welcome to the Service MVP Podcast, the show that helps home service professionals master high-value sales, build stronger client relationships, and grow their business like never before. Join industry experts as they share real strategies that drive results. If you're ready to level up your service game, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
It's the Service MVP Podcast.
10 years, I haven't sold anything, in probably 7 years because I've got into sales leadership. But, I'm still telling the same stories about, when I get home from work at the end of the day, I would tell my wife, Betsy, about, how much, she'd maybe say, how much did you sell? Or, I'd say, I sold this or I sold that. But then I would end up ultimately talking about the people, the relationships. And I'm still telling stories about relationships that I made, 10 years, 8 years ago, 15 years ago. That, I went to one call, and this is just a quick story. It's like I went to a call and I walked in the door, and, they have the little table with the bowl where they put the keys, right? Where they put their keys. And above that table was a rack on the wall with a bunch of coffee cups. And so I look at the coffee cups and, I'm like, right away I zeroed in on one. I said, Tecumseh Motors. I don't know if you know what that is.
It's totally.
Makes compressors for lawnmowers.
I used to have a mini bike we had. Every mini bike I had, it's Tecumseh.
And so I go, Tecumseh. And the guy said, and this is in Mesa. I'm from Wisconsin, right? This is in Mesa, Arizona, 2,400 miles from Wisconsin. And the guy goes, what do you know about Tecumseh? And I said, well, my uncle used to work for Tecumseh in West Bend, Wisconsin. And he goes, I used to work for Tecumseh in West Bend, Wisconsin. I go, wow. He goes, what's your uncle's name? And I said, Dale Steele. And the guy said, Dougie?
That's
and
funny.
Then a minute, then he goes in the other room, comes back with a high school yearbook, the 1958 yearbook or 1960 yearbook from Slinger High School in Wisconsin, and opens it up, and there he is, and there's my uncle on the same page. Now, I'm still telling that story, 10 years, 15, I think that was 15 years ago. I'm still telling that story. I'm not telling that story because I made a $700 commission or $1,000 or $50. I don't even know what I sold. I think it was a package unit. I probably made a few bucks on it, but I'm not talking about the money that I made on that deal. I'm telling that story because if I hadn't made that connection, don't get me wrong, I was still going to make that sale. Because if I hadn't noticed that coffee cup, I would have talked to him about something else. I was going to, but if I hadn't paid attention and focused on that customer first, I wouldn't have this awesome story. And, now today, I tell that story. I think about my uncle. I think about, and it's like, it was such a cool story. And then the guy was like, yeah, I tried to buy your uncle's Mustang 2 years ago. And then I call my uncle. I'm like, who I hadn't talked to in a minute. And he's like, oh yeah, I know that guy. So it's just a crazy story. And to me, those connections, when you're focused on the people, you'll make that's a pretty extreme one, but you'll make connections like that. Every week, there'll be some connection. I believe that if you talk to somebody long enough, you'll figure out that you have you'll for sure figure out that you have a mutual interest. But if you talk longer, you'll find out that you have mutual acquaintances. And, and then I just love that because I'm a people person. But from a sales standpoint, once you start making those types of connections, I think it becomes more likely with each connection that you make. If you make a connection with a customer, don't stop there. Make another one. Keep connecting more dots. And the more of those dots that you connect, the more likely it is that you're going to make a sale and you're going to make money, which is ultimately why you're at the call. That's why you even have your job. And it's okay. It's okay to use one to lead to another. It's how it works.
it's an investment. It's a personal investment we make in other people that I think gives us the ability to manage the project better. Because if you find a way to care for other people, then you're going to make sure we get this job done right. The quality of the work we do, the quality of the solutions become better, and that this is again the differentiating point. Nobody ever would have that experience with cousin Uncle Doug and those people. And by the way, I'm you and I are connected too because here we go. We're both in the music industry in the band. We both got involved with sales. I was like 6.75 an hour in a call center too. It's like, man, you're like living. And then I grew up in, just south of the Illinois border in like Gurnee, Illinois, and
Okay.
so you're just like right north of me there. You were just in the Midwest, and I wound up moving out here too. So it's so many different the Midwest that I can always tell somebody I know is like probably from the Midwest because they just are nice, And when I go to different places in the country, it's like you're not from this area, are you? I'm like, no, I'm from Midwest. He goes, I figured that.
The
You're so
biggest difference between us is that I've never had that much hair in my entire life.
oh, it could be, yeah, but you know what?
I've never had that had hair.
That's
You
just
know, one
it's just a cosmetic change. That's all.
one thing that you mentioned, about managing a project, and I've never really I thought about this I don't know, maybe a couple months ago that,
Hmm.
you know, if you think about it, if you go to a restaurant and, we've all been to a restaurant where the server, I still say waiter and waitress, but I know server's
Hmm.
the right word now, but your server is miserable. They
Yep.
hate their job. And maybe they're a little rude, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally. And they're just, you just kind of get the feeling like, I don't like, not a fan of the server.
Hmm.
You know, if you, I don't like onions. My wife really doesn't like onions. I don't like onions, right? So if I order a burger with no onions and they bring out a burger with no onions, and if that server was awesome and they were like, I could tell they love their job. They were really nice, very personable. They took some time, a little extra time, maybe called me sweetie, right? Or whatever, right?
Yep.
And that burger comes, they screw up my order and I get onions on my burger. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to pick them off.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything.
Hmm.
I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to eat my burger and I'm going to enjoy it. I'm just going to take the onions, kick them aside. But if that server was a complete, what,
Hmm.
I'm sending the burger back
Yeah. Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
risk of now probably having them do something nasty to my burger, but I'm sending it back. So think about that. If you take the time to build the relationship the right way and really connect those dots and go a little deeper and spend the time with the customer, even after you made the sale, the cool down period where you continue the relationship, maybe some follow up calls. When that job goes sideways, and I'm going to say when, not if, because jobs go sideways. When that job goes sideways, the only thing that's going to save you is the customer giving you some grace.
Yeah.
And the only way they're going to give you that grace is if you spent the time to build that relationship. And nobody
Mhm.
thinks about that, because when you sell lots of jobs like I did and like a lot of us have, we have lots of jobs go sideways. And if you
Mhm.
look at it, can look in your, if you look at yourself and you say, what, I had lots of jobs go sideways.
Mhm.
Cause you got to remember, I'm not a technical guy
Yep.
and I sold tons of jobs. So there's going to be jobs that go bad. I had very few, I never had complaints, really. I'll say never for this conversation. I never had complaints
Yeah.
because I had this awesome relationship with the customer that had my direct line and they'd call me and then I'd freaking handle it.
Hmm.
But there were guys that sold, a tenth of what I sold. And every time they'd sell a job, not every time, but when their jobs went sideways, it was like in the freaking news. It wasn't in the
It's
news.
like a dumpster fire.
It
I guess
wasn't in the news, but it was like
it was a dumpster fire.
Yelp,
Like
Google
everybody would.
reviews, freaking
If,
blowing up, finding the CEO's freaking, email address and, complete dumpster fire. Mine were always like, hey, we'll handle it. We'll just call Dale. He'll handle it. So
He'll take
think
care.
about that, you know?
Dale's gonna take care of me.
Yeah. And so that's just another thing that people don't really think about.
Yeah. Well, good. Thanks for giving us that information. Think about it. It's really great. Thank you for listening and watching the Service MVP podcast. I want to give you a copy of my free book. Just click on the link below in the description, and one will be sent to you from me personally. Thank you so much for listening.